a decent night for me. A little bit tilting. Felt like it was going to be kind of the nuts. I had just two Dodgers who had played, and then I had a 4-man Seattle stack, and what was my other 2-man? I can't remember exactly. But as of the start of the late games, after the first inning in Seattle, I was looking like I was going to make a run and maybe win the thing because Seattle was pretty low owned. They scored, got the home run from Hernandez in the first inning, and they were up 2-0, and they just couldn't do anything the rest of the game, which is the nature of baseball. So a little frustrated not to have a better night, but still good to get on the right track. Sheets, talk about a little bit. I know you had a nice run in the Monster on FanDuel.
Well, not really a run, but I'll just show you the lineup. It was like kind of funny because I had the Cleveland, I bit with that and they lost, but I had Miami too, and so this is what it looked like. This is 0-3. You know what I mean? But then the Chisholm, Wendell, Arias, you know what I mean? Like and Soler foursome just kind of just rolled, which was good enough to get me 22nd, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
This guy Draft Hacker won everything. I think he won every tournament.
I don't even know who that is.
I don't either, but he won the Monster by 37 points. I mean, yeah. Let's see what he had. He had the Mets. He had Nimmo. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is like the Bobby lineup. What is it? 2-1-1-1 or something? What is this?
I don't do that, but that is pretty well. You see, that's what I'm saying. Every now and then, these are the things that pop in and just get there.
You know what this is? This is a 2-2-3-1. There you go.
On a 15 gamer
with the one off of Luis Garcia.
The biggest slate, and that was literally the biggest slate of the season. There won't be a bigger one, and there won't be that's it. This is all the teams played.
And Muncie 6 points was just plenty to win by 25 points.
Yeah, I mean, if you get all the other pieces right, it's pretty amazing how that works. But anyway, we'll get into today. It's it's a little smaller than yesterday's slate, but still another big one. And wait, let me make sure I have it right. Yeah, I have. Oh yeah, it's still a big one.
Yeah.
So 13 gamer, little breather from the 15 game sheet. So any overall thoughts before we go into game by game?
Yeah, Dodgers are still in Colorado. But I think the pitching is sort of weak.
I agree with that.
So we'll see. I have like 2 guys I like a decent amount, and everybody else kind of stinks. That's what I was looking at least. But we'll figure it out.
Yep. All right. Well, let's jump into it. First game up, we have Cincinnati, Baltimore, and let's see. I actually had another one first, but I tried to make it flow, and it was not working for me. So no interest in either of these pitchers for me. I think you could make it like a little bit of a case, like if you really wanted to, for either of them, but it's just a big slate, and I don't really want to go there. I think that the Baltimore side of things is definitely appealing as a potential pivot off of the Dodgers. I don't love the actual lineups they're throwing out there. They are going to be low owned. They just don't have, we don't have any Mountcastle. Santander's still in there, which is good. But then Westberg just came up. I think this is a reasonable stack today. And Cincinnati's bullpen was really bad and then has actually been good of late. But I'm into the idea a little bit of maybe getting to some Baltimore. How about you?
Yeah, were we lazy, or was I lazy in not playing Pittsburgh when Darvish was scratched?
I played Pittsburgh, so I can't say if you were lazy. I ended up with like 20% Pittsburgh, probably. Well, not 20% of 5-man stacks, but 20% of like each of their players because they were all 2K basically.
Yeah.
So
anyway, I'm not getting either of these pitchers. And hitting wise, again, we're looking for anything that could pivot off the Dodgers. And yeah, sure. I mean, I could always play some Baltimore. So listen, they're not huge priorities, but well, I don't know. I have them as one of the top 5, honestly. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Let's start this with Baltimore. So no pitchers, and we'll start with Baltimore, and we'll see where we go.
Yep. And if you wanted to do a fringy Kyle Gibson play, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world. I just think we're going to find. I mean, you're going to hear a lot of that with pitching today because the pitching, like as you mentioned, is leaves a little to be desired. All right, Pittsburgh and San Diego. You got Snell and Keller. Oops. So immediately not going to be heavily invested in the hitting in this game. I think you could make a case, maybe if it was a smaller slate for Pittsburgh. just to take a reverse side against Snell. I'm kind of confused. I know we've seen, Keller be a little bit worse, but it's not like he's been as bad as...
DFS MLB projections have been updated. They should be available on SaberSim in a few minutes.
Anyway, so I'm a little surprised to see that San Diego's run line is as high as it is, and I think that Snell's in play. Where I'm going to end up with him by the end of the slate, we'll figure it out on this show probably. But I have Snell, and I actually have Keller as a play that I don't think people are going to play at all, and I'll just include him in the mix because I don't feel excited about the other guys at the top for right now. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I currently have Snell as my top pitcher, although it's close, honestly. But I do have him as my top pitcher for now. I'll tell you this. I mean, considering the ownership, maybe
should we? Go ahead, Chiefs. Sorry.
I was going to say, I mean, I have him at 25-30% owned. Maybe he's not. Maybe he won't end up being my top guy. But right now, he's rated as my top guy. And I'm not getting to Keller, and I'm not getting to any of the hitting.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Snell has been the best DFS pitcher in baseball for the past, at least the past month.
Well, he's my hero from last week, remember?
Yeah, 30, 35, 37, 37. Like, I mean... maybe it's actually maybe because we don't like it. Maybe by the end of the day, we're actually going to be talking about how Snell might be too. And also, like, they hit lefties a little bit better, but this is not a strong lineup, especially without Brian Reynolds. Obviously, O'Neal Cruz is gone for the year, pretty much most of the year, or whatever it is. So it is a pretty great spot. Maybe I'm just surprised to see that the run totals in this game are a little bit higher than I would have expected. All right, San Francisco at Toronto. Logan Webb and Trevor Richards. Really tough matchup for Webb. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to the 10-6. I do think I can get to San Francisco here. I like the stadium upgrade thing. I always like to play that game. You know what I mean? Who gets the biggest boost? And look, Miami's a great example from last night. You go from Miami to Boston, and all of a sudden things look a lot better. But it's going to be basically a bullpen-ish game, and I don't love stacking against that. I would take some shots, though. I do think gambling a little. The problem is you're going to end up with a lot of potential pinch hit risk and things like that. But I have San Francisco as actually a team I would like to get some exposure to, even if it's not necessarily a stack. The problem is it's just, again, how many lefties are they going to bring in? What is San Francisco going to do with Jock Peterson, Lamont Wade, Conforto, all those guys? They don't have as many guys available as they usually do, but they're probably still going to be, I don't know. I have a feeling that there's a good chance that some of these guys definitely get pinch hit for. But as of right now, I have San Francisco as like a fringy team that I don't expect people to play, that are affordable, but they do make me nervous with the pinch hit risk.
I mean, for me, as I promise, I'll get to something I like, but not here. I'm not getting to all four sides of this game. I'm not getting to Webb. I'm not getting to Richards, or obviously, I mean, again, like you said, that's going to be, probably a whole bunch of pitchers pitching this game for Toronto.
Yeah.
Which is, again, one of the reasons why I'll probably off of San Francisco also. And Webb's good enough to keep me off of Toronto, so I'm probably off all four sides here.
Yeah. Makes sense. All right, let's move on to Miami and Boston. Sheets, why don't you start us off here?
Yeah, so, not usually my style, but right back to Miami seems to make sense. In Boston. Now, again, this is a bullpen game, but who's coming in for Boston? Is Roger Clemens coming in off the bench or something? I mean, I don't know who exactly I'm afraid of for Boston. So, again, I don't like to play teams off of big ceiling games like that. Miami's just, listen, we're looking for pivots, and they're just rating really, really well today as far as projection goes, in a good park, which is why they're rated pretty well. So I do like them. I have Boston as sort of a play, like way down the list, but I'm kind of interested in Garrett. He's got a million strikeouts, so you got a million strikeouts. It's good enough for me.
Doesn't walk anybody, strikes everybody out. Good combination.
Yeah, and he's not showing up as like a well-projected guy, which for some reason, which is also good. It's sort of so I like Garrett. I like Miami. Sneaky correlation with those two, and I guess nothing really on the Boston side.
Yeah, I don't believe Boston's seen Garrett before. It's Boston. It's good hitting weather and all that stuff. So the run totals are going to be, reasonably high. I am completely fine with playing Braxton Garrett today. I don't feel so confident about the pitching, but if you want to talk about the upside, the two lefties, Garrett and Snell, these guys could easily get you like 60 together. And I don't want to say easily, but like they can do it. The problem with the Red Sox, contact heavy. But I mean, Garrett is a good enough strikeout pitcher to negate some of that. So I'm totally okay with the Garrett idea. I don't really have a whole lot of interest in Miami. I mean, on DraftKings anyway, like there's some cheap spots on FanDuel, but like, I don't know if I need to pay all this for these guys in a bullpen game. I think it's fine. They're more outside looking in for me, but they're fine. It's just not my favorite today personally.
Okay.
I'm going to do the sheets. They scored 10 runs, so I can't play them. All right. Why don't you go ahead with Milwaukee and the Mets?
Yeah, well, I was wrong about Peterson. He had a very, very nice game yesterday.
Marlins will not be chalky, by the way, just to answer Eric's question. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess I was wrong about Peterson. He pitched 6 shutout innings yesterday. So much for my knowledge of Mets pitching, I guess.
He was still nowhere near the best of the cheapies, though.
No, definitely not. Senga, it is testament to how bad Milwaukee is, I suppose. Senga, I'm not really getting to today. Nor am I getting to Miley, nor am I getting to nor am I getting to the Mets, nor am I getting to Milwaukee. Why, you like Senga a little bit here?
I think he's all right. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's like a great play. He's not like I think he's going to have some ownership. And you have another. The weather should be okay, but just throwing it out there, there's a little bit of rain. But yeah, it's Milwaukee, who we like to attack at times because their lack of patience and the fact that they strike out. And I don't stack against this is one of my things I do. I almost never stack against Wade Miley. I think the only time I stack against him is usually like it's the Dodgers or something, which is like the only time he gave up multi-home runs in the game this year. He's actually been a pretty decent pitcher. So don't really love the stat idea for stacking the Mets, but I mean, like if you wanted to play Pete Alonso or Tommy Pham because he's cheap, Alonso's probably too cheap, by the way, at 5K. He probably should be 6K with the way that we're paying for other guys these days. The Mets are certainly affordable, but I just think I'll go a different direction myself.
Okay.
All right, let's move over to Houston and St. Louis. And for me, not a game I expect to be doing a whole lot with on any side. I have just enough respect for the pitchers. I have I don't have a reason to try to stack against these guys. I don't have a reason to play these guys exactly. I think that if I had to pick one, I guess Mikolas would be the value option, and it doesn't feel great. He does have upside, but just because of he has more innings pitched upside than he does the strikeout upside. And then Javier's a good pitcher facing a lot of righties, but I just don't feel great about it. It's 89 degrees in St. Louis. So for me, this is probably a pass.
Moving on. I'm with you. All 0 for 4 in that game too.
Yeah. All right. Why don't you start off the next one, Philly?
Yep. So actually, I have Texas, Detroit next, and I have both these. So both sides of the Texas ledger look good. Dunning at 6,100. Again, he's not like the biggest upside guy in the world, but Detroit bumps all righty pitchers some degree. So at 6,100, he's rating as a very good point per dollar play, very cheap. In addition to that, Texas rates for me as the top non-Dodger stack on the board against Wentz. Not that Wentz is terrible. I mean, Wentz isn't bad, but Texas they could smack. They were getting nothing, and then all of a sudden they exploded like in the last couple innings yesterday for 7 runs, I think, or something like that. Nonetheless, I do like Texas, and I do like Dunning.
Yeah, let's get some Texas running back. They didn't get it going for me last night until they started to try at the end. I'm fully back on board with the Texas, and I'm into the Dunning. So I am. That's the way I'm going today. I am going to be very high on Texas, and it's going to be hard to get them in with Dodgers, and they're going to be really low owned. So I like Texas as a pivot. They're a lot right there with Baltimore as one of my favorites. And I like the Dunning idea. I think that this is because I don't feel, look, there's certainly are upsides for Snell or Keller or Garrett or Senga or whatever. But the 6,100 at, get me 16 fantasy points feels like the kind of night where enough of the time that's gonna do well enough for me, especially when I want to pay up for bats. So I'm into the idea of using some Dunning. And he's been really good, man. He's been a really good pitcher for the most part. All right, Philly, Chicago.
Yeah, what's the weather like here today?
So in Chicago, it's 74, 6-degree mile-an-hour winds blowing in from right field. Not like crazy, not the extreme, but certainly a little bit of a boost to the pitchers.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like Nola looks to make perfect sense here. Nola, Snell, Nola, Garrett. This is the only reason I hesitate to play like Dunning, really. So I just got a feeling I could just play Snell with Nola and just kind of be done with it. Not that those two are locks or anything like that, but those are. I think Nola's pretty solid here. I think Drew Smiley. No, I'm not really getting to him. Every once in a while he'll put up a game, but I'm not getting to that. Cubs, Philly. No, I'm not getting to either of those either. So for me, it's just kind of Nola from this game.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I mean, Smiley has actually been, pretty solid like throughout the season. He's actually been really good, actually. I could see an argument for Philly still, and I could see an argument for Smiley, to be honest with you. But I think that the better play is probably just stick with the Nola. And man, I'll tell you what, though, something just feels a little different with him this year, even when he has his good games. He had that one monster game against Detroit, but he just hasn't quite been the same guy. Even when he's looked good, his pitch count goes. Even he had that game against Atlanta where he pitched 6 innings and he only gave up 2 hits and 2 walks, but he threw 103 pitches. Still, he couldn't get to the 7th. He usually is a guy who can be really effective with his pitches like that and not I don't know, not overuse them per at bat. So I'm a little just concerned about him in general, but I am still probably going to play him today. All right, KC and Cincinnati. I'm sorry, in Cleveland. Logan Allen belongs in that list of pitchers we could potentially use tonight for me. I have no issues with that whatsoever. And as always, Cleveland will look like a better stack than they actually are. I'll tell you one thing. It's 97 degrees in Kansas City. That's pretty crazy. We haven't hit the 100 triple digits yet for this year, and I don't know if we will, but this is, we probably will. But 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing out and that kind of heat, you kind of want to do something, but I mean, I just feel like I keep telling everybody, I think if you just faded Cleveland all year long, you could probably just make that move and you'd probably be profitable because every time they show up, they literally never get there. So that's my argument. And having said all that, I still don't mind if you wanted to include a couple guys. They also, on top of it, you have a lefty going against, I don't know. I don't think I'm stacking Cleveland. They certainly make sense from a hitting condition standpoint, sort of like playing them almost like cores because this weather is ridiculous. But Jose Ramirez, fine. Everybody else to me is just sort of a pass unless their lineup shakes out and they have Arias batting first at 2,100. Then I would probably reconsider a full stack just because the pricing would be right, but not a full stack for me.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, Cleveland's going to show up as good value again, and they have a little better matchup, I think, today. I mean, we did know that Singer had, at least had some talent.
Yeah, I played Singer. Yeah.
So I will probably bite and go back to Cleveland again. But I was able to, but I'm able to find like other teams I like better. You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah.
Like I'll get to Texas more. You know what I mean? I'll play Baltimore or something like that. Even some other teams. So Cleveland is going to show up again as good value. And like you said, they just don't get there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Yeah. So to speak to the Cleveland, I mean, like and Eric's asking this question. And Eric, I knew you were going to do this 100% before we came here. Like immediately, I imagine you'd be talking about playing Kyle Freeland and doing everything, like that. I know he's been like much better at home, but what are you hoping to accomplish? You want a pitcher with zero upside who's saving you. He's barely been saving you off of like Dunning, like who actually is.
This is okay. So this is. I'm glad that he brought this up because every once in a while I kind of want to review not the concept of leverage, but like different ways to accomplish it. So the idea is that like on a slate like this, you're going to have the Dodgers as a really chalky stack. And sometimes you'll have like a pitcher who's a really chalky pitcher. And you want to sort of get leverage against those guys. And the purest way to get leverage, obviously, is to get the opposite thing. Like if there's a chalky pitcher, to take the opposite team hitting, right? Or if there's a chalky hitter stack, to take the opposite pitcher. And that is a very pure, like direct, leverage way to play. And in some case that makes sense. But there are subtler ways to do it with especially when some team is in such a great spot, you know what I mean? And when the leverage is really not in such a great spot. And that is just like if you want leverage against the Dodgers, just play a different stack. You know what I mean? Like right. At the same prices, sort of. You know what I mean? You don't necessarily have to play Freeland. And likewise, if there's a chalky pitcher, you don't necessarily have to just play the hitters against them. You could play like a different pitcher at the same price or something like that. Like if this were a case where the Dodgers were chalky against, let's say, like Andrew Heaney or something like that, or somebody who the Dodgers really rated to just kick ass over. But in those days that they don't, the other guy has a bunch of upside, then yeah. And what makes Freeland frustrating is not that he's got incredible strikeout upside, is that he just kind of just gets by, you know what I mean, and limits damage. So like even if you're right and then you want to fade the Dodgers, like you'll end up playing Freeland, and Freeland will have a great game and get 12 fantasy points. You know,
or 5.
Yeah. So that's I mean again I wasn't directly addressing you, Eric, but just I think it is important to talk about leverage in that sense every once in a while.
Yeah, I just think we're look, even if you happen to be right, and like, why would you assume he could get 20 DK points today? He's had 20 DK points exactly twice this season. This is obviously the best team none of them against the team is the quality of the Dodgers. One of them was against Milwaukee. He did have one against Philly, but that was when they were banged up. And even still, that you're going to have an outlier game. But like, what are you looking for if that's the kind of plays you're trying to make when you have a no strikeout guy? It's just not for me. I understand these 5K. I would rather by 1,000 times play Michael Grove against a completely inept offense at basically the same exact no ownership. And honestly, you don't need 20. You can get 15 and probably be thrilled with it. But if I was going to play one of the 5K guys, it would be Grove. Is there a chance Freeland gets 20? Sure. But why are you going to just play that weird? I just think it's a terrible style of play in general. And it's just to take the exact opposite of what the chalk is does not make it a good play, in my opinion. If this was like a 3-game slate, then I would be all on board it. There's just no reason on a 15-game slate with all these options, even as the pitching is thin, to play a guy who has the worst possible spot in all of baseball. So with all that, I will limit my Dodgers to less than 4 as always. I will, I will try to play the slightly lower owned ones depending on who's in the lineup, and I'm gonna be filtering the Dodgers in, but they will not be. It'll be the same rule I made yesterday. It'll be 4 men or less, and I'm totally fine if you want to completely fade the Dodgers in general. I do generally try to stay more away from Freeland because he does a good job pitching at Coors, as Eric mentioned, but it's just not the play I make. The interesting thing is on the other side is that I don't think you're going to get hardly any ownership at all on Colorado. So if there was a way to get different, I think that would be your best way of pivoting. And everybody trying to make the argument for Freeland. Go ahead, play him. It's fine. Go ahead and pay him. Play him if you want to. There's guys at 6,100 who are legitimate plays, taking the pitcher with the worst spot in baseball. I don't care whether it works or not. It's just that type of strategy. I just don't think is a good move to take guys in Coors like that on 13-game slates who have the worst possible spot, project the worst. are actually in the worst spot, and even if they pitch well, don't have any upside. I think there's just better things you could do. I think Michael Grove is a better play, and I wouldn't play him. But if you don't want to, if you like Freeland that much, just skip the Dodgers and play Colorado or something. You know what I mean?
Okay, so let me give my opinion on this game. I think the Dodgers are the best overall stack on the slate. Just to get that out of the way. And I actually like Colorado here. I have them as like kind of 5th overall. So I would definitely take a shot at them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much all I have from this game.
One thing to keep in mind is that there is there's 11-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from right. So maybe stick with the righties more in this game than the lefties.
All right, that's actually a good call. I gotta make a note of that. Actually.
Assuming that the weather stays like that. All right. So moving forward, Cheats, can we start off the next one?
Yeah. So White Sox and the Angels. Let's start by saying I don't really like any of the hitting here. And as far as pitching goes, I think that Giolito is always in play. So I do like him. Well, I don't like him. I have him as kind of a 6th or 7th pitcher, but when you account for upside and stuff like that, and I don't imagine anybody's going to play him. Well, I mean, he's coming off a 28-point game. Maybe people will play him. Nonetheless, I definitely think he's always got between 25 and 30 points in him, and I consider him one of the better tournament players.
Yeah, it's funny how it goes. You get basically the same matchup, and Giolito goes from 2% owned to now he's going to have some ownership.
Oh, he will. Okay, I didn't know that.
People are sort of catching back on that he's got stuff. He goes both ways. Like you can certainly get a bad game out of him. Another thing I would rather do rather than play Freeland would be Berea. I would consider that a better play than Freeland as well, and I wouldn't play him either. But at least I think he has a clearer path to 20 fantasy points against a White Sox team that had been surging a little bit offensively until they got Shohei'd last night. This game is a cross-off for hitting for me for the most part. Maybe I can talk myself a little bit into some of the White Sox, but I don't think I'm going to. If they did something weird like that in Gavin Sheets 5th again, he's 2.2K. I would. He's probably going to bat 8th again, but occasionally they'll throw him up there in that 5 spot. Maybe you could do that. But like in general, this is mostly a skipping hitting Giolito. And then like if you're really getting frisky would be the Berea thing. And I do understand what Munachi is saying here, which is similar to what, that yes, while it is viable, it's just what is the path for you to win a tournament? And does Kyle Freeland make any sense in that? And I really have a hard time that he makes the winning lineup like almost ever here just because of the lack of upside. Now, could he have an outlier 7 strikeout, 6-inning game with no earned runs against the Dodgers? Sure, he could. But so could a lot of these. So could basically anybody on the slate. Picking the least likely guy isn't the optimal way to go about it, in my opinion. And the bats you want to pay up for are the bats that are facing him. So it's kind of tricky. All right, talk about your Yankee Sheets.
What's the weather in Oakland today?
64 degrees, slight wind blowing out 6 miles an hour.
No big deal. Okay. I like both these pitchers a little bit. Not anything approaching priorities or anything like that, but I think that they're both okay. Sears is, well, you can look at it any way you want, but Sears is against the team that drafted him, I think. I don't know how many of the Yankees there remember, you know what I mean, or were there when he was there. So I know you like to play the hitters that know the pitcher a little bit. Yeah. But I don't know exactly who's still there, even that was, who was when Sears was there. Nonetheless, I think Herman is interesting. He obviously has a good matchup, and he's coming off of 2 just atrocious, outings in a row. So I was about to say I don't think people are going to play him, but I guess who am I kidding? You know what I mean? You watch him end up like 25% owned at the end of the day, just because they're playing Oakland. But I have to believe that people won't do that. So I will. I'll consider Herman and Sears kind of fringy secondary plays. And as far as the hitting goes, yeah, sure. I mean, I think either of these teams, Oakland or the Yankees, can be kind of thrown in the mix as well. So in a weird way, I think all 4 of these prongs are okay.
Yeah, I actually like that you said that because I can kind of see that. I kind of see the same thing. Depending on how Oakland's lineup comes out, like just the simple value of their lineup is it leads itself into a nice little mini stack, right? Like, and you've got some stolen base and power upside right at the top, and everybody's 2K, and just makes it easier to complement your bigger stack. So I'm okay with it. I don't particularly want to pick on Herman, even though he's certainly been worthy of being picked on.
Right.
He's been completely terrible. But I think both pitchers are in play to Herman and Sears. It's which way do you go with the Sears thing, having been in the system and all that. I do think it usually is an edge. I also want to correct something. So I got a bogus report that actually said that Josh Donaldson was DFA'd before yesterday. And sure enough, not only was he not DFA'd, he actually hit a home run back in Oakland. The narrative worked. He's back in his old place, and Josh Donaldson somehow hit a home run, which is just, he's hit some home runs this year, but I think he's got like 10 hits all season long. So I think Giancarlo Stanton is just on his own. Just look, give me Stanton's career with at 4,400 against the lefty. I'll always take shots there. So I see all four prongs like you do. I don't think I like the full stacks of Oakland or New York, but I like the pieces. Yeah, and I think they're good to add as complementary stacks. And I think that Sears is probably my favorite of the two pitching options. Even though I am a little concerned about the former team thing. You never know which way it's going to go. All right, so let's talk about the last one is Tampa Bay and Arizona. Sheets.
Is the roof open or closed? Do you know?
I'm assuming it's closed because this is the time of year where they always close it. As of yesterday, it was supposed to be closed, but I'm going to take another look right now while you start talking about it here.
All right, I figure I'll throw it in there. I'm not really getting either.
No, it's a good question.
I'm not even getting these pitchers regardless, but I do have Tampa as kind of like a team to maybe play. And I guess with the roof being closed, maybe it makes it a little less likely I'll do that.
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah, so pretty much a pass in this game then.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do I don't really like taking any pitchers if you want to know the truth against Arizona. So I'm not. There's no Eflin for me, no Zach Davies, and I do think that Tampa Bay is still in play. It's odd to say but think about it. Tampa Bay scores the most runs of anybody. They play in a worse hitters park than Arizona with the roof closed. So why are we gonna knock them? I think that this is another one that's actually pretty expensive. And I think Tampa Bay is completely viable. There's a lot more stacks that I'm interested in at first look today than there was yesterday. I had a very tight 3-4 teams yesterday. Today I've got a few more. And I don't have an order for them yet, but I have Baltimore and Texas are certainly going to be right near the top for me. Dodgers, but it has to be 4 men or less. Colorado, but I want the righties more than the lefties. Oakland, but I only want a mini stack, and then Tampa Bay. So I guess for my full stacks, it really is Tampa Bay, Texas, Baltimore as my main ones. And then you get all the other ones are more fringy. I think Snell and Nola are the two guys you naturally would want to pair together. It's going to be difficult to do if you want to play the big spend ups. I like the Garrett, Dunning, Logan Allen, Giolito as my others with the potential of JP Sears. So I'm in on all that stuff.
Let's do a Saber Sim build and see what we would get. I was very surprised. Yesterday they were very frisky. They had 90% Cleveland. They're not too thrilled with their results. So let's just see what Saber Sim did a little more homework. I bet you they go right back to it. But let's just see. I bet you go right back to all the Cleveland. Let's see what they do. And no, Houston. How about them apples? So it looks like Houston and the Dodgers look to be. Let's just double check this. Yep, LA, and Houston as the top two stacks here. And then as far as pitching goes, Snell, but pretty spread out. Snell, Dunning, Sears, Herman. Okay, Nola, Giolito. Basically, my top 6 pitchers is what we get from the Sabres and Bills, and I didn't have the slightest bit of interest in Houston when I first looked at it. So we will see. I am not going to be live tonight. It's my daughter's birthday, so we're going out and doing some stuff for that.
Happy birthday, Ash.
Yep. and we're going to come back in a few minutes and do a little golf.
Sounds good. Good luck tonight, everybody. I will see you guys live at 6 Eastern, and hopefully we can improve a little bit on last night's close calls and the late night get there for us this time.
All right.
I know a lot of other guys at Seattle in our Discord too. So, all right, guys. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you guys with